Hello students, welcome to Shet Vidya Mandir High School and Junior College. This is HSC online audio video lesson. So today I am going to teach you the part 2 of psychology chapter. Part 1 is already been uploaded. So let's start with that. So in this chapter we are going to study the remaining topic, that is research methodology, and there are many more. Okay. So first one is research method in psychology. There are many methods in psychology to do research. Okay, so I will teach you all of it one by one. First one is experimental method. Experimental method, it is like a total procedure where we follow step by step methods. First one is identify the problem. First you have to choose the problem which you are going to study, right? And second one is develop a hypothesis. You need to develop questions regarding to that problem. What will happen? It will go like this or like that. So like that you have to do a hypothesis. Next one is select a procedure. So how are you going to do the experiment? Like in the laboratory, or going out to talk to people, or just going out with a sheet and ask people to write the answers, or whatever procedure you select. The next one is a collect the data. Once everything is done, you collect the data with you and analyze the data. Analyze the data meaning that you have to go back to the history of the topic that you have chosen or the problem that you have chosen and match your data with them, right? Like you got something different, is the problem is changing, is the problem is no more, or is the problem is increasing, right? So this is how you will analyze your data to other people researchers, and this is how you can draw a conclusion out of it, like what was the conclusion of your research, right? Next one is experimental method is an accurate method for doing a research. So from the topic that we are studying is research methodology, a lot of psychologists and psychiatrists says that experimental method is an accurate method for a research. We get a proper information out of it which are very much liable and valid. Next, research method in psychology. Next one is survey method. For collecting data from predefined group, questionnaire, checklist, rating scales, inventories, and interview. Can also be taken by emails, telephone, and direct interaction. Okay, survey method is directly means that you're just going and talking to the people. If you're not going there physically, then you can send the questionnaire, checklist, rating scale, etc. Now here I mentioned the word predefined group. It means that you need to select your group before you do the survey method. For example, if you want to research about a mall, like how the people are satisfied, the customer satisfied or not, so before going to them and doing survey, you have to check first, are the people are shopping from the mall, the same mall, are the customers are frequent, right? So these are the things that you first you will check out. You will decide the people with whom you want to do the survey, and then you will pass on the questionnaire, checklist, whatever you have, right? Now I'll try to show you what a questionnaire and checklist and reading dates look like. So this is a questionnaire where there are questions and you just need to say yes or no to that. Okay, basic questions. This is a checklist where you have to tick on that whichever criteria fits to you. Now this is a rating scale. Now rating scale is a very important thing in psychology because lots of studies in psychology are depending on rating scale. Because psychology tries to understand the human behavior, so we cannot directly say yes or no to something. Am I happy? I can't say no. I can't even say yes because maybe I'm slightly happy or maybe I'm very much happy, right? We cannot stick to just a word of yes or no. That is why we have a rating scale where you can rate your feeling or whatever the question is about. So, good, is it extremely good, quite good, or slightly good? And if you go to the bad side, is it extremely bad, quite bad, slightly bad, or neither. Neither means you don't want to answer that question, or you don't know the answer of that question, right? So in future, if you go to this field, this this is very useful for you. So do remember and understand this. Okay, next one is observational method. Observation method, students, has two types, that is natural observation and controlled observation. So if I say natural observation, it means that you're directly going to that uh, situation and just sitting there and observing the situation. I'll try to give you an example. For example, if you want to observe a child, right, so you will just go to the child in the park or in the at his house or in the school. You will just sit quietly without giving any instruction or without introducing you, doing nothing. Just go behind quietly and sit and observe the child. What is he doing? How is he doing? You're trying to have a psychological observation of the child. That is a natural observation. Now, if I talk about controlled observation means that when you are controlling the environment of the child. For example, you are calling the child into the laboratory or your clinic or any different environment. You are giving your own toys to the kid, or you are giving some pre-planned toys to the kid to get the behavior out and then observe it. That is called controlled observation. Okay. Next one is case study. Case study is a qualitative study by Sigmund Freud of a particular person from different sources. For example, case study means to have a qualitative information. Qualitative study means to have a very deep answers to the questions. And qualitative study cannot be taken by only one particular person but also from the family member. If, for example, your research topic is to get the behavior or to get the status of the family of a person who is having a terminal illness. Terminal illness means maybe we can say some long term disease like cancer or something, right? So you will talk to the person who is facing the disease, like how are you feeling, what is the hope that you have, how are you suffering, like how is your sufferings, how are you trying to cope with that, right? So this will be from the one particular person, but also you need to check out with the family what is happening in the family. You will ask other people, the best friend, the mother, the father, how is he reacting to this problem, to this situation, right? So this is called as case study. And if you just have a deep information, that it can also be called as a qualitative case study, qualitative study. Now next one is correlation. Now correlation is also being used in psychology lot more, way more than any other study, because here we do correlation between the variables. Okay, now correlation is a statistical tool to understand relationship between two variable means you can select any two things and try to check are they related or are they not related, right? Now first I'll tell you that it has three types. First one, positive correlation. Second one, negative correlation. And the third one is zero correlation. I'll try to explain you with the help of graph. First one, positive correlation in compared to ice cream sale and temperature. T is temperature, IS is ice cream sale. So if the temperature is 30, the ice cream sale was 100 pieces. If the temperature rise to 35, the ice cream sale went to 120. Now after few days or after few months, the temperature decreased to 27. The ice cream sale also decreased to 70 pieces. Okay, so this is how temperature is positively correlated to ice cream sale, because if one is rising, the other one is also rising. If one is falling, the other one is also falling. Okay, so this means that it has a positive correlation. Next one is negative correlation. I'll try to show you with the comparison of happiness scale and depression scale. it is very logical that if the person is depressed, then he must not be very happy. If the person is very happy, then he must not be very much depressed, right? So if DS and HS, DS is depression scale, HS is happiness scale. If the person is scoring 100 in depression scale, it means he is having some kind of depression, and he will score very less in happiness scale. Now, if he's scoring very high in happiness scale, then he will score very less in depression scale, right? So, if one is going up, the other is going down. And if the other one is going up, the first one will go down, right? One is rising, the other one is falling. So, it means that it is a negative correlation. Next one is zero correlation in comparison to the height and intelligence. If the person's height is 5.1 at certain time and his intelligence was 105, okay, the score of intelligence scale is 105. Now after few years, the person reached to the height of 6 feet, but the intelligence was the same. Now if you compare it to the other people also, that if one height is 4 feet, his intelligence will be less or more. No, because intelligence will be always the same. It means that height is not at all affecting the intelligence, and intelligence is not at all affecting the height. It means there is a zero correlation. These two variables are not correlated with each other. Understood? Next one. So we are here with a different topic. In your textbook, it is 1.5. Challenges in establishing psychology as a science. Okay, so if you want to choose a subject and prove it as a science, we face lots of problems. First problem is psychology is paradigmatic state. Paradigmatic state means it is not mature enough to be proven as science earlier, okay, because we had very less studies to prove it, as still we have very less studies to prove it, but as compared to physics and chemistry, they are having some popular studies and showing researches. But in psychology is very young subject, still trying to establish. So that is why it is a pre-paradigmatic state. It means it is still getting mature, right? Next one, issue related to objectivity and validity. So some areas of psychology, such as personality, leadership, creativity, emotions, attitude, etc., rely on soft research methods such as survey and questionnaire. Methods such as introspection and psychoanalysis are inherently subjective, therefore, psychology to some extent falls short to the criteria of objectivity and validity. Because lots of topics are there which will not give you a proper 100% guarantee of a behavior. That is why it is not objective. Objective means कि अगर ऐसा हुआ तो ऐसा ही होगा, right? We cannot say that because it is all about human can react anything anytime. That is why it is not objective. Psychology is subjective, right? Next is issue related to predictability and replicability. Predictability, that is what I was talking about. You cannot predict a human behavior. Even if, as a psychologist, I know a person and I will say that this is how he's going to behave, but it is not possible. It is not 100% guarantee that I can give, because he is a human, he thinks and then he behaves. So it is possible that he may behave differently, so that I cannot predict the behavior 100%. Though I know him, and through the view of psychologist, I can predict a behavior to 80%, but not 100%. Okay, next. Objectifying human is not at all possible, as human may behave differently in different situation, since treats human being as things and objects that can be examined by experiment. So it is like we do experiments and then we come to a conclusion. So we cannot do experiments on human. That is why it is very vague, or it is very difficult to objectify a human. Next one is importance of rationality. Okay, so this topic is like very important and I wish to explain you in person. So I will also cover up the whole chapter again, like a revision, and explain you this small part in person in the class. Okay, so let's go to the next thing I want to discuss with you is this, a recap of the chapter. First psychology laboratory was opened or established by William Wondit. Emergency of functionalism was given by William James. Emergency of structuralism was given by William Wundt and Edward Titchener. Emergence of psychoanalysis was of course given by Sigmund Freud. Emergence of behaviorism was given by John B. Watson. Emergence of humanistic, Carl Rogers. Cognitism was given by Ulrich Neisser. So these people are the pioneer of the topic. After that, lots of people investigated, but these are the pioneers. Now, what you have to do is write it down, remember these names because these are very important and valuable names. Here, positive correlation, if variable x rises, y also rises. If x falls, y also falls. Negative correlation, if x rises, y falls. If x falls, y rises. Now, when we talk about zero correlation, if x rises, no change in y. If x falls, no change in y, because they are not correlated, right? Next one. So this is like an assignment to you all where you have to draw a graph through for these 7 questions here. Okay, and you are going to send me across on my personal number, not on the group. So I'll give you one example for that, how to do that. I'll take 4th one, rehearsal and forgetting. So if I need to make a graph for correlation, if I'm doing, use your brain a little here. If you are doing rehearsal, then it is likely that you will forget very less. If you're not doing rehearsal, then it is possible that you will forget. So it is like if rehearsal is increasing, forgetting is decreasing. If rehearsal is decreasing, forgetting is increasing. So this is a negative correlation. So on top you will write negative correlation, draw a small graph, small tiny graph showing how it is rising and falling. So for all 7 you need to do, either make it only on one page or either make it on different pages, but I want only one picture from one student. Don't send me 7 pictures for these small questions. So edit or draw it on one page only, it is all your wish, but I want to see this. Okay, so here we end the chapter. Thank you very much. I appreciate your efforts sitting at home and trying to go through all the chapters through our channel. Thank you very much.